Hello, my name is Wisdom and welcome to this beginner-friendly tutorial on getting started with Amazon EC2. If you're new to AWS or cloud computing, this video will help you understand what EC2 is, what problems it solves, and how to use it step by step. By the end of this video, you'll know how to create an EC2, configure an EC2, and delete an EC2 with confidence. So let's jump in. Firstly, what exactly is EC2? EC2 stands for Elastic Compute Cloud. It's a service from AWS that provides virtual servers in the cloud. Imagine you need a server to run an application, host a website, or test some code. Traditionally, you'll need to buy or rent physical hardware. You need to set it up and maintain it yourself. EC2 solves this problem by allowing you to create virtual servers on demand. These virtual servers are highly flexible, affordable, and easy to use. Whether you need a server for just a few hours, days, or months, EC2 eliminates the hassle of managing physical hardware. Now that we know about EC2s, let's see how to set one up. Firstly, you need to log into your AWS account. And after logging in, you'll be brought to the console homepage, as you can see on my screen. Next, you need to search for EC2 at the top of the page, the search bar. So you type EC2 in and you select EC2 under services. This will bring you to the EC2 dashboard page. On this page, you select instances, which is where all your running or recently deleted instances will be. In order to launch an EC2 instance, you click the Launch Instances button at the top right here. This brings us to the Launch an Instance page. So here we'll need to give our EC2 instance a name. I'll call this My Test Instance. We'll also have the option of giving our EC2 instance a tag. Now, a tag is a key value pair that helps you organize your AWS resources. Think of tags like sticky notes that you can attach to your instance for easy categorization. So I'll click the Add Additional Tags button here. Add New Tag. Then I'll set the key to environment and the value to test. Great. Next, we have the option of selecting an AMI. So an AMI determines the operating system and pre-installed software on your EC2 instance. There are various options. You have Amazon, Linux, Mac OS, Ubuntu, Windows, and other flavors of Linux. But I'll stay with the default here, Amazon Linux. You can also select an x86 or ARM architecture for your EC2 instance. I'll stay with the default here also. Next, we have the instance type. Now, the instance type controls the hardware resources like CPU and memory for your EC2 instance. AWS offers different families of instance types for various use cases. You can click the drop down and look at the various configurations that each instance type has and choose the one that best fits your needs. For this demo, I'll stay with the T2 micro instance already selected. Next, we have the option of creating a key pair. Now, a key pair is a security feature AWS uses to ensure only authorized users can access your instance. Think of the key pair as the lock and key for your virtual server. The public key is stored on your instance, like the lock, and the private key is downloaded to your computer, like the key. So if this is the first time you're using EC2, you need to create a key pair. If you already have a key pair, you can select from the drop down here, but I will create a new key pair here by clicking this button. So this brings up a dialog where we can give our key pair a name. So I'll call this My Test Key. And I also have the option of selecting between different key pair types and key formats. right? So the RSA type is the most commonly used and widely compatible type. And the ED25519 is a newer, faster algorithm with improved security but less compatibility. So we'll stick with the commonly used one, RSA. Also, you can select a .pem format for your key pair or a .ppk format if you're using Windows. .pem is for OpenSSH, which is common on Linux and Mac. Since I'm using Mac OS, I'll stay with the .pem key format and click Create Key Pair to continue. That has created my key pair and downloaded the file to my Mac. The next section we have to configure is the network settings. So you click Edit here, and this opens various settings you can configure for your EC2 instance. The first one here is selecting a VPC. Now, a VPC, which means Virtual Private Cloud, is like your private data center in AWS. AWS automatically creates a default VPC for you, so you can leave this as is unless you're working with a custom setup. So I will leave it as is. You have the option of selecting a preferred subnet. Subnets divide your VPC into smaller, more manageable sections of IP ranges. By default, AWS chooses the best option for your region, so you don't need to make any changes here. But you can also click the drop down to see the various subnets you have available to select if you prefer one. The next option here is to either enable or disable auto assign public IP. This setting assigns a public facing IP address to your instance, making it accessible from the internet. So ensure that it's enabled, especially if you plan to connect via SSH. So I'll leave this as enabled. Next, we have the option of creating security groups. Security groups act like a virtual firewall for your instance. They control what traffic can come in and out of your instance. So I would select a name for my security group. I'll call this my test SG for security group. And I'll change the description to security group for my test instance. Great. So next we are able to configure various security group roles. Now, the first one here you can see is the inbound security group role for SSH. This ensures that we're able to connect to our EC2 instance via the SSH protocol. Now, the source type here is something to pay attention to. The source type determines who can connect to your EC2 instance via SSH. If left at anywhere, anybody from across the internet can connect to your EC2 instance. If you want to set that to your own public IP, which would grant only you access to that EC2 instance, you can either choose custom here, set it to your public IP or a range of IP addresses, or click my IP here, which will automatically determine your IP address and set it as the source for your EC2 instance. So I would leave this at anywhere for this demo and continue. Next, we have the option of configuring the amount of storage space we want to be allocated to our EC2 instance. By default, it's 8 GB, and that is more than enough for me. Lastly, we have the advanced details sections, which has some more configurations for your EC2 instance. Things like user data, where you can write scripts that will run when your EC2 instance is created, when it starts, and some other details. But we'll leave that for this as we are going for a basic setup in our EC2 instance. Now, lastly, we'll select the launch instance button to create our EC2 instance. So our EC2 instance has successfully been launched. I'll click on the instance ID to take me to that instance's page. As you can see, we are on the instance page, and you can see our EC2 instance in a running state. Now I want to connect to the EC2 instance. So I'll select the checkbox here and click connect at the top. This brings us to a page that offers different options for us to connect to the EC2 instance. So I'll click the SSH client option since I want to connect via SSH. Now I'll copy the example displayed down here, as this will enable me connect to my EC2 instance. So I'll click the button here, which copies it. Then I'll go to my terminal. I'll paste that command here, and I would update the path for my PEM file because I know my PEM file got downloaded to my downloads folder. So I'll change this path here to downloads. Now, when I run this command, I should be able to connect to my EC2 instance. So I press enter and I press yes and enter. Okay, I have an error message letting me know that the permissions for my PEM file is to open. So what I'll do is set the permissions to 0600. Those permissions would ensure that only the user that owns the PEM file can connect via this PEM file. This is a security feature for SSH, which ensures that the permissions are not to open and they do not act as a security risk for the user. So I'll write the command chmod 0600, then copy the path of my PEM file and paste it here and press enter. Next, I'll clear the screen and try to connect again via SSH. Great. I was able to connect successfully to my EC2 instance. And here you can install and configure whatever you want to going forward. Now let's go back to the console and see how we can delete our EC2 instance. So in order to delete our EC2 instance, we go back to the instances page. We make sure that our EC2 instance is checked. Then we go to instance states and select terminate instance. We confirm by clicking terminate, and the termination process is successfully initiated. You can see that the EC2 instance is shutting down, and in a few seconds it will be terminated. So we'll refresh the page. And our EC2 instance has been terminated successfully. So that's the end of this video. In this video, we talked about creating, configuring, and deleting an EC2 instance. I hope this video was useful to you. If you like this video, click the thumbs up button, like, share, subscribe, because I'll be creating more videos like this, beginner friendly, that will help you increase your skills